Okay, so today, again, we have a README that you're welcome and encouraged to go through on your own after the lecture. And my lecture is going to be similar but slightly different. So I'm going to start by, so the idea is we're going to make an app and it's going to mimic Amazon. So it's going to be the Amazon project. It's going to have a couple apps. One of the apps will be, let's say, just like the regular e-commerce site, like buying stuff, ordering stuff, and then the other app will be like streaming, like a streaming service kind of thing. So we'll have those two apps, like very bare bones implementation. But what we're going to focus on is templates and like extending templates and reusing templates. So I'm gonna try to go quickly through the actually getting the app up, and then once we get to the part where we're talking about templates, you can slow down a little bit. But if you have questions along the way, please let me know. Manage.py. Let's see. So first I need to create a virtual environment. Install Django. And then I'm going to create my Amazon project. I'll cd into Amazon, and I'm going to I'll create two apps. So I'll do shop, and then watch. Okay, so I have Amazon is my project, and I have two apps, shop and watch. So I'm going to go into the settings, and I'm going to go ahead and just quickly include those two apps that I just added. So shop, and watch. And then I'm going to create the models. So shop, go into the models, and it's just going to have a simple class. We'll call it product. Extending models.model, and then models.character field with a max length of 100, and then a price. We'll use decimal field. And this takes decimal places. There's a couple required ones. Well, I'll just leave it and we'll get an error. We'll see what we have to do. And I'm going to override the string method with def. All right, so that's the product model for the shop app, and for the watch app, I'm going to create a model which will be very similar. So class, this will be movie. And then title will be models dot, oops, max length, something that makes sense. And then this will have price. This will also have decimal field. And we're also going to override the string method. Okay, so I've got my models. I think I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the migrations. So Python manage.py, make migrations. So I get an error here telling me that decimal fields must define a decimal places attribute and then a max digits attribute. So decimal places is going to be money, so we'll do 2. And then max digits, and we could do whatever we want. I don't know how expensive a movie could possibly be, but just to be on the safe side, let's say, maybe that's not that safe. And then we'll do the same thing in the shop.
So would that be like 100 and then 2 decimals, or would it be 5 main and then 2 decimals?
I am not sure. I believe it's 5 total, but you can check the documentation. Decimal places 2, and then max digits. Well, this should probably be more. Let's do 8. All right, so I'm going to try to make migrations again. That works. And I'm going to migrate. All right, so I got all that stuff in my database. And the next thing I'd like to do is, I want to add, I want to add some dummy data, but let's just say for whatever reason, I want to do that in the admin panel using the GUI instead of maybe via script or something, which if you're going to be working long-term on a project, you should probably use a script. But so we'll set that up with the admin, and we'll go to the app, to each app, and we'll go to the admin.py, and we're going to register the models for this this app. So from .models import shop is product. So admin, so that's what is imported by default. So admin.site.register, and then the model. And we'll go to the watch admin. We'll do the same thing. So from .models import, and then watch was movie. So admin.site.register movie. All right, so I have created, I have my project. I have the 2 apps, the shop and the watch apps. I have created the models. I've run the migrations, and then I've basically hooked up the admin GUI. I'm going to tell the admin GUI about my models. So in order to use the admin GUI, I'm going to have to create a super user. So Python manage.py create super user. Do something very simple. All right. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and run the server and see if I can log into the admin GUI and create some dummy data. Run server. Okay. Okay, so that is working. Okay. All right, so now I can log in to admin, and I have my products and my movies. So I'm gonna go ahead and add product. So name will be stapler. Price will be and I'm gonna go to movies, add a movie. criterion collection or something. All right, so I've got some dummy data here, and okay, so I'm done with the admin panel for now. So I have basically all my backend stuff taken care of, but I want to actually be able to see this in the browser. So I'm going to start by creating some routes. We'll go to the top level, and I'm going to want to not redirect, but direct traffic to my apps. So include, I'll include and go path. And then I'll keep things simple. So shop. So if anyone goes to /shop, it will get redirected to shop.urls. And watch will go to watch.urls. All right, so I'm going to go to shop first, create the URLs. So from Django.urls, import path, and then URL patterns. And then we're gonna have to give it 2 things and optionally 3 things. So the first one will be, the next part of the path, which we'll just say is nothing. And then the view function is going to get called, and we'll call this. We are in shop, so this products, and we'll just give it a name in case we need to refer to that later. And we'll import that from views. Okay, once we have that, we actually need to write the list products function that will request. And then so list products is we're gonna want to hit the database. So we're gonna get all the products that we have. So product equals product dot objects dot all, and import product, and then we'll create context. And then return render. This render function itself will return an HTTP response object. So we're going to pass it the request. Then the template that we want to use. So this will be shop / list HTML. And the context. All right. We're going to do basically the same thing. Okay, so the shop, and I'll do it to watch urls.py. Let's handle the route. So from go.urls, import path URL patterns. Path. And again, we'll just go to /nothing, and then this will be list movies, and we'll give it a name. Smoothies. And then we'll have to import that from .views, import best movies, and we'll actually create that. Request, and we'll get all the movies. We'll have to import that. We'll get the create a context object from that. And then we're going to return, render, pass in the request, the template path, which will be watch / list movies.html, and finally context. All right, very exciting. So at this point, what we have to do is create the template folders. So for each of these, we'll create a templates folder. So shop templates, and then within that, shop, and then our HTML. So list this products.html. All right, so I'm gonna do a for loop here. For, let's see this. And I'm just gonna be lazy and do product. All right, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm basically going to do the same thing to our other app, watch, templates, watch. And then I'm going to do, what was it, list, HTML. Save this, replace. That should work. All right, so let's see if this actually works now. So we'll go to a route that exists, shop. Okay, we have two products showing up there. And we go to watch. Oops. Okay, we have two products there. So routes are all set up, everything's good, but so one issue, which maybe isn't like a huge issue, is that our templates are repetitive, right? So we have all this basic boilerplate for everything, and this, you know, will only get worse the more we add. So let's say we had a header, for example. So we have the watch template, and we have this. So we have two templates here, and they're both identical except for basically what's in here. Then we could do, let's add, I'm just going to copy and paste, bootstrap. To get started. And I'm going to copy this so we can use bootstrap here. Put this in the head. We'll add it to both. And then add a nav bar that will be used. Let's say we have an application, and even though we have this watch app and this other app, they're both going to have a nav bar. So yeah, so here's one. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste that in at the beginning there, and that in at the beginning there. So now I have this this nav bar that shows up on all of my pages. Watch and shop. Okay, so I mean that works and it's fine, but we're also repeating ourselves. So if we ever wanted to change anything in the nav bar, for example, we'd have to change it in however many places we had. So that makes for brittle code. So we don't want to do that. So we can extend templates actually. So one thing we could do here, let's say in our shop app, would likely have lots of different pages and so on. So if we're going to use this, header everywhere, the nav bar, we can actually create a base template for the shop app and then just use that there. So I'm going to actually do that right here. I'm going to create a base.html. And then I'm going to take all this stuff. Except for what we don't need here. And then here we're basically going to say that something else is going to get included in here at some point. We do that with, I'm blanking on the name. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name. Not content. Block, sorry. Block content. Okay, so some content is going to get put in here, and then we can just specify what's different here by using extends. This keyword extends. And I'm just gonna, let's do so I'm gonna stop the server and restart it. Base template for shop, and then let's see. Okay, so I've included this, but I did not. I have to actually include it here as well. So I will do block content. And we'll quit the server, run it again. And here I've got this. So the usefulness shows up obviously if you have lots of different HTML pages here in this app. And if I
Chad,
go,
you don't need to, you don't have to close out that extends. Wait,
no, yeah,
okay.
yeah, you just have to have that at the top. Shop, and then so this is still using the other one. Okay, so that's how you do it at the app level. You can also do the same thing, but at the project level as well. So let's say that this, this nav bar or whatever, this is like the common, all of the common elements for everything in our entire project. So depending on what your project is, that may or may not make sense, but if that is the case, you can do that as well. So here what we're going to do is I'm going to create a template here. So Django by default will look for certain things in certain places. You can tell Django to change what it does by default by adding some configuration in the settings.py file. So that's the primary place where you have configuration. So I'm going to first create a template. So I'm going to create a directory here at the top level, at my project level. And I'm going to call it, you can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call it base template. You can call it this templates, probably is the sensible thing. I'm going to call it base templates just so it's clear what it is. And then let's see. Put that in there. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the server. And if I go to, I'm gonna get an error because my template is looking for something called base.html and it can't find it because it's only looking in the place that Django looks by default. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to tell Django to look somewhere else. So we'll go into the settings, and this stuff you would just find by looking at the documentation, but I'm just walking through this with you guys. So here we have this templates. So there's a constant here that Django uses for its own configuration, and anything about templates we'll include here. You don't need to worry about any of this, but here's this DIRS key. So this DIRS key is basically going to be where should Django look for this. So since we want Django to look in this base templates folder at the root of our project. So there is actually a constant already for the root of our project, which is basedir. So we can use that. So we'll do basedir. And then it'll be slash, and then whatever we've called this folder, which is in this case base templates. So the hot reloading server is really good when you're changing views, but when you're changing like static files, it's sometimes you have to restart the server. So I'm gonna go here, and now it works. Now it's finding the base template. I'm gonna change this. It's no longer just the base template for the shop app. That's going to be the base template for everything. So shop should be good. And then watch is going to need to be adjusted. So we're going to get rid of all this junk. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tell Django that this template is not alone. So extends base.html. And then this is the block content. It's going to be injected into that blank spot. All right, now I'm going to restart the server. And that still works. And if I go to watch, then watch is now using the base template for everything. So the basic idea, one, the templates allow you to kind of inherit other templates. So you can save yourself some trouble with the boilerplate. And two, you can play around with if you need to. You can play around with where Django looks for things by default. We can also, is there a question?
I was wondering if at this point we just have one blank spot and one block content that's going into it. Is that right? There's not, we haven't done like two different block contents trying to go into that one spot yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's extends, there's also includes, which you could use for something like that. But yeah, for now, so the block content here, you can also, this is actually a variable name. So you can call this whatever you want. So the content here is just a name. Okay, so I do want to also quickly talk about static files. So static files mean like CSS, mostly CSS for us, but CSS, JavaScript, and also things like images. So the way that we won't go into details, but the way that there's a standard way that Python application servers work, which is the this WSGI, and this is the async version, the same thing. This is just like a standard protocol for creating web applications with Python. But the reason you need a kind of a separate static, a way to serve static files separately is that the design includes you have the application server, which does the application stuff, and then the server, the host server takes care of static things. So you can, if you're interested, you could read up on WSGI standard. You don't really need to know that, but so that's why there's this kind of, why is there this separate static folder, this separate static structure for serving up things like CSS files. So we look here, settings. So Django has this static URL, which is basically where on the application server it's going to, where on the host server it's going to look for static files, and you'll have to, you know, if you were doing this from scratch on a server, you'd have to put those files there and so on. But we don't really have to worry about that, especially with the development server. It takes care of that. But we do have to include another variable where we tell Django, just like we did if we wanted to customize our templates, customize where Django looks for the templates, we had to change the setting here. We're gonna have to add a constant called static files dirs. So static files dirs, and that is going to be a list. And this list is basically going to be the same thing we did with the templates. If we want to put a static file at the root of our project, so I'm just going to base there slash, and then we'll call it static. So we'll do base dir slash static. And then I'm going to create a folder here called static. And then, so this static folder could serve, CSS, JavaScript, images, whatever, other files. So I'm going to create another subfolder called CSS. And then in here, I'm going to add a file called main.css, or, yeah, let's call it main. Okay, so CSS, main.css, and I'm just going to have like a dummy value, so body, so we can see it's working, and background color will be slate blue. Okay, so we have this CSS file, and it's supposed to be included somewhere. But in order to actually do that, we can go in here, and let's say we want, again, let's just hypothetically want this to apply to everything in our application. You can add another link tag here. So link. And that will be href is, we'll worry about that in 1 second. And then the, what's it, rel full style sheet. Okay, so the href here is going to be.
You're missing a T in the style sheet.
Oh, thank you. So we're actually going to use a function, but we're going to have to do something else. So if we want to use our static files here, we're going to have to load them. So similar to what we did, like extending the base template. So following the syntax, so load static. When we load the static, then we can actually use it in this template. And so you can do static, and then we're going to give it a path, and that path is going to be everything after this. So anything more specific than this. So it's going to start here, base dir slash static. So in our case, base dir slash static slash CSS slash main.css. So that will be CSS slash main.css. I'm going to save that and rerun the server. And now I'm using everything. So if I go to watch, and if I go to, what was it, shop? So shop also gets the same CSS. So again, there's nothing like conceptually difficult here. It's just Django has a very particular way of doing this, which is not obvious at all. So just a matter of looking through the documentation and playing around. But just thought I would show you that you can do stuff like this if it's useful. Yeah, that's basically all I've got. Any questions?
Chad, can you just give an overview